The restaurant was one of those places where everything costs twice what it should, but the atmosphere makes you feel like you're supposed to be grateful for it. My wife had picked it. She always did when her friends were involved. I sat at the end of a long table, watching her laugh at something Virginia said. Virginia was the ringleader of this group. Divorced twice, perpetually dating someone half her age, and convinced she had life figured out. The other 3 women at the table hung on her every word like it was gospel. So I told him, Virginia said, waving her wine glass. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. The table erupted in agreement. My wife nodded enthusiastically. I took a sip of my beer and stayed quiet. These dinners always went the same way. The women would talk, I'd listen, and eventually someone would make a comment about relationships that was thinly veiled criticism of me. Tonight felt different though. There was an edge to the conversation I couldn't quite place. You know what I think? Maddie leaned forward, looking directly at my wife. I think some people are just too comfortable. They stop growing because their partner isn't pushing them to be better. My wife shifted in her seat. That's so true. I've been feeling that way lately. I set my beer down. Feeling what way? She glanced at Virginia before answering. Like I'm not reaching my full potential. And why is that? I kept my tone neutral. Because, she said, her voice getting stronger, my friends all think you genuinely limit me and hold me back. So we're done. The table went silent. Even the waiter passing by seemed to pause mid-step. I looked at her, then at Virginia, then back at her. Cool. Then go join them. I stood up, pulled out my wallet, and placed enough cash on the table to cover my meal and tip. Nobody said a word. Virginia's mouth was actually hanging open. Maddie looked at her plate. The other 2 women suddenly found their phones very interesting. My wife's face went from confident to confused to panicked in about 3 seconds. Wait, what are you doing? Exactly what you asked for, I said. You said we're done. I'm respecting that decision. I didn't mean right this second. We need to talk about this. No, we don't. I picked up my jacket from the back of the chair. You just told me, in front of your friends, that I'm the problem in your life. You don't say something like that unless you've been thinking it for a while. So I'm giving you what you want. Freedom. Virginia finally found her voice. Maybe everyone should just calm down and, with all due respect, I interrupted, looking directly at her. You don't get a vote here. You've been in my wife's ear for months, telling her she deserves better. Well, now she can find out if that's true. I turned back to my wife. Keys to the house are on the counter. I'll sleep at a friend's place tonight. We can figure out the details tomorrow. You're being ridiculous, she said, but her voice cracked. Am I? I buttoned my jacket. Because 5 minutes ago you seemed pretty certain about this. Don't worry, I won't make this difficult. You want out, you're out. The drive home was quiet. No music, no phone calls, just me and the road. Part of me expected her to call immediately, to say she didn't mean it, that it was just the wine talking. But my phone stayed silent. When I got home, I didn't pack a bag. I didn't call a friend. I sat at the kitchen table and pulled out the folder I'd been avoiding for weeks. Bank statements, mortgage documents, insurance papers. Everything we'd built together, all mixed up and complicated. I'd seen this coming. Not tonight specifically, but the end. She'd been different lately. Distant. Critical. Always comparing our life to her friends' lives, like somehow we were falling short. But I'd convinced myself it was just a phase, that we'd work through it. Turns out I was wrong. My phone buzzed. A text from her. Where are you? We need to talk about this. I typed back. I'm at the house. You're the one who left. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, I'm coming home. I put my phone face down on the table and kept sorting papers. By the time she walked through the door 2 hours later, I had 3 piles organized in front of me. Joint accounts, individual accounts, assets to divide. She stood in the doorway, purse still on her shoulder, staring at the mess on the table. What is all this? Paperwork, I said without looking up. You said we're done. I'm just getting started on the logistics. I didn't think you'd actually. Can we just talk about what happened? I finally looked at her. What's there to talk about? You made your feelings pretty clear. In front of witnesses, no less. She dropped her purse on the counter and sat across from me. I was upset. Virginia said some things earlier today that got in my head. And I don't know. It came out wrong. It came out honest. I corrected. That's different. So that's it. One bad night, and you're ready to throw away everything. I leaned back in my chair. One bad night. You just told me I'm holding you back from being who you're supposed to be. That's not something you say in the heat of the moment. That's something you actually believe. She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. The silence stretched between us like a canyon. I already called a lawyer, I said. First appointment is Monday morning. You should probably do the same. She stared at me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. You called a lawyer? Already. Why wait? I closed the folder in front of me. You wanted this. I'm just making it official. I never said I wanted a divorce. You said we're done. Same thing. She stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. This is insane. You're acting like I cheated on you or something. I just said I felt held back. In front of your friends, I reminded her. After months of them telling you how terrible I am for your personal growth or whatever Virginia's been feeding you. This wasn't spontaneous. You've been building up to this. So you're just going to give up? Not even try to work things out? I stood too, gathering the papers into neat stacks. Work what out exactly? You think I'm the problem. Your friends think I'm the problem. What's there to fix? Me becoming someone different so you're not embarrassed by your boring husband anymore. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You humiliated me tonight. You looked me in the eye and told me I'm what's wrong with your life. And now you want to talk about fair? She crossed her arms. Fine. If you want to be petty about this, go ahead. But you're going to regret it. Maybe. But I'll regret it as a single man with his dignity intact. Her face flushed. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm not going to beg you to stay. I'm not going to grovel or promise to change or pretend tonight didn't happen. You made a choice. I'm respecting it. She grabbed her purse off the counter. I'm going to stay at Maddie's tonight. We'll talk when you've calmed down. I am calm, I said. That's what you're not getting. I'm not angry. I'm just done. She paused at the door, hand on the handle. You're really going through with this? You started it. I'm just finishing it. The door closed behind her with a soft click. I stood in the kitchen for a moment, listening to her car start and drive away. Then I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Terry Sampson, a buddy from college who'd gone through a divorce 3 years ago. He answered on the second ring. Hey man, what's up? Got a minute? I need the name of your lawyer. There was a pause. Everything okay? Not even close. But it will be. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my own house. No dramatic exit. No sleeping on a friend's couch. This was my home too, and I wasn't going to be the one who left it. I made coffee, went for a run, showered. Normal routine. By 9 o'clock, I was at my desk working from home like I did every Friday. My phone buzzed constantly. Text messages from her, each one more desperate than the last. Can we please talk about this? I didn't mean what I said. You're overreacting. At least answer me. I turned my phone face down and focused on work. Around noon, there was a knock at the door. I knew it was her before I opened it. She looked tired. The makeup from last night was smudged, and she was wearing the same clothes. Maddie kicked me out this morning. Said her boyfriend didn't want me staying there. That's unfortunate. Can I come in? I stepped aside and let her pass. She went straight to the kitchen and poured herself coffee from the pot I'd made hours ago. It had gone cold, but she drank it anyway. Virginia called me this morning. She said, not looking at me. She said I should apologize to you, that I went too far. Interesting that Virginia is suddenly concerned about my feelings. She feels bad about what happened. She should. I leaned against the counter. But her feeling bad doesn't change anything. You still said what you said. You still meant it. I was caught up in the moment. They were all talking about their relationships and how they'd changed and grown, and I just felt stuck. So unstick yourself. I'm not stopping you. She set the mug down hard enough that coffee sloshed over the rim. Why are you being like this? Like what? Honest? Direct? I thought that's what you wanted. Someone who doesn't hold you back. I wanted you to fight for us. No, I corrected her. You wanted me to chase you, to prove how much I need you. That's different. I'm not playing that game. It's not a game, isn't it? You make a dramatic announcement in front of your friends, probably expecting me to beg you to reconsider. When I don't, you suddenly realize maybe this wasn't what you wanted after all. But here's the thing. I heard you, loud and clear, and I believe people when they tell me who they are. She was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. So what happens now? I have an appointment Monday morning at 10. My lawyer's office is downtown. You should set up something with your own attorney. We'll work out the details through them. Just like that. Just like that. She picked up her purse from where she'd dropped it on the counter. I need to get some of my things. Clothes, toiletries. Take whatever you need. I watched her walk upstairs to our bedroom. Listened to drawers opening and closing, hangers scraping across the closet rod. 20 minutes later, she came back down with a duffel bag slung over her shoulder. At the door, she turned back to me one more time. This isn't how I thought things would end. That makes two of us. After she left, I sat down at the kitchen table and pulled out my phone. 14 missed calls, 23 text messages, most from her, a few from her friends, 2 from my mother who'd somehow already heard about what happened. I deleted all of them without reading and got back to work. The weekend passed in strange silence. She didn't call, didn't text. I assumed she was staying with one of her friends, living out whatever fantasy they'd sold her about being single and free. Monday morning came. I put on a suit, something I hadn't worn in months working from home, and drove downtown to the law offices of Mills and Associates. The receptionist was professional, the coffee was decent, and the lawyer was exactly what I needed. Mid-50s, no nonsense, been through this 1,000 times. How long have you been married? He asked, pen poised over a legal pad. 7 years. Any children? No. Shared assets. Houses in both our names. 2 cars, both paid off. Joint savings account with about $12,000. Retirement accounts are separate. He nodded, scribbling notes. This should be relatively straightforward then. Oregon is a no-fault state, so we won't need to prove anything. Just file, wait 90 days, and you're done. That's simple. The legal part, yes. The emotional part is usually messier. He looked up at me. Has she hired representation yet? Not that I know of. She will. Give it a few days. He was right. Wednesday afternoon, I got an email from someone named Alice Mosley, attorney at law. Professional, polite, asking if we could arrange a time for our clients to discuss terms before filing official paperwork. I forwarded it to my lawyer and went back to work. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, another call. Same number. I answered. Hello. Hi. This is Bryn. I'm friends with your wife. I didn't recognize the name. Probably one of the women from the dinner who'd stayed quiet. Okay. Look, I know this is weird, but she's been staying at my place since Monday, and I need her to find somewhere else. That's between you and her. She said you two are working things out, that she just needed a few days. But my husband is starting to ask questions, and honestly, I don't want to be in the middle of this. We're not working anything out, I said clearly. We're getting divorced. She should probably find a longer-term solution. There was a pause. Oh, she said you were just upset and needed space. She said a lot of things. Most of them weren't accurate. Right. Okay. Well, thanks for being honest at least. She hung up. Thursday, I got a text from my wife. Can we meet? Please. I responded. Attorney contact info is Alice Mosley. Everything goes through her now. I don't want to do this through lawyers. I want to talk to you. We're past talking. This is happening whether you're ready or not. Friday afternoon, I was at the grocery store, the normal weekly trip I'd always handled anyway, when I heard a familiar voice behind me in the produce section. Well, look who it is. I turned. Virginia stood there with her cart, looking like she'd just come from the gym. Designer workout clothes, perfectly styled hair despite supposedly exercising. Virginia, I wanted to apologize, she said, moving closer. For the other night. Things got out of hand. They did. She didn't mean what she said. She was just venting. Funny how when people vent, the truth usually comes out. Virginia shifted uncomfortably. Look, she's struggling right now, bouncing between friends' couches, trying to figure out where to stay. Maybe you could just talk to her? Work something out. Why are you here? I asked directly. The actual reason. She blinked. I told you. To apologize. No. I mean, why are you really here? Because from what I hear, none of you have exactly been lining up to help her out. Bryn kicked her out. Maddie's boyfriend didn't want her there. So where is she staying now, Virginia? Your place. Her silence was answer enough. That's what I thought. I grabbed a bag of apples and put them in my cart. You spent months convincing her she could do better than me, that she was being held back. Now she's finding out what better looks like, and suddenly you're not as enthusiastic about helping her live that life. That's not fair. You keep using that word. Fair. None of this is fair, but it's honest. And honestly, she made her choice. You all encouraged it. Now she gets to live with the consequences. You're really not going to help her? I'm not stopping her from doing anything. I'm just not going to be her safety net while she figures out if the grass is actually greener. She's an adult. She can handle her own decisions. I moved past her toward the checkout lanes. She didn't follow. That night, around 11, There was a knock at the door. I looked through the window and saw her standing there, a different duffel bag at her feet, looking exhausted. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. It's late. I know. I'm sorry. I don't have anywhere else to go. What about Virginia? Maddie? The whole crew that was so supportive last week. Bryn kicked me out. Maddie's boyfriend said no from the start. Virginia has her new boyfriend staying at her place and said it would be awkward. I tried a hotel, but everything's so expensive. And now you're here. I thought maybe just for tonight. The couch is fine. I won't bother you. I looked at her, genuinely looked. The confidence from that dinner was completely gone. She looked small, tired, and lost. Part of me wanted to let her in, to make this easier. But that would just delay the inevitable. No, I said simply. No, you can't stay here. This is exactly what I meant when I said I'm not your safety net. You wanted to be done. You wanted freedom. So be free. But you don't get to come back here every time it gets hard. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know. But that's not my problem to solve anymore. I started to close the door. Wait. Her voice cracked. Can I at least get some more clothes? My work stuff is still upstairs. I thought about it for a moment, then nodded. Fine, but make it quick. She grabbed her duffel and walked past me into the house. I stayed downstairs while she went up to the bedroom. 15 minutes later, she came back down, the bag noticeably fuller. At the door, she paused. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But this feels cruel. It's not cruel. It's clear. You don't get to leave and then act surprised when I'm not waiting here with open arms. That's not how this works. She left without another word. I locked the door behind her and went to bed. My phone stayed silent for the rest of the night. 2 weeks went by. The divorce paperwork was filed. My lawyer said everything was moving smoothly, which apparently meant a lot of waiting and very little drama. She tried everything during those 2 weeks. First came the apology texts. Long paragraphs about how she'd made a terrible mistake, how she'd let her friends get in her head, how she never should have said those things. I read them all, didn't respond to a single one. Then came the strategic appearances. She showed up at the office on a Tuesday, bringing me lunch from that sandwich place I used to like. My coworker Simon gave me a look when he saw her in the lobby. Thanks, I said, taking the bag. But you didn't need to do this. I wanted to. I thought maybe we could eat together. Talk. I'm swamped today, but I appreciate the gesture. 5 minutes. Please. I glanced at Simon, who was very obviously pretending not to listen while absolutely listening. Not here. This isn't the place. Then where? You won't answer my calls. You won't see me. What am I supposed to do? Respect the process. We have lawyers for a reason. She left the sandwich on my desk and walked out. I gave it to Simon. He seemed happy about it. The following Friday, she tried a different approach. I came home from work to find her car in the driveway. She was sitting on the front steps, waiting. How'd you get here? I asked, unlocking the door. I still have my keys. To the car, yes. Not to the house. I had the locks changed last week. Her face fell. You changed the locks? Of course I did. We're separated. You can't just come and go as you please. I wasn't coming inside. I was waiting out here to talk to you. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. She followed before I could stop her. We need to discuss this. Actually discuss it. Not through lawyers or text messages. What's there to discuss? Us. Our marriage. The fact that you're throwing away 7 years over one stupid comment. I set my bag down and turned to face her. It wasn't one comment. It was months of you being unhappy and not saying anything. It was you choosing to humiliate me publicly instead of having an honest conversation. It was you expecting me to just take it and beg you to stay. I know. You're right. I handled everything wrong. But doesn't that deserve a second chance? Why? I asked simply. So you can spend another few months deciding I'm not good enough? So your friends can convince you again that you're settling? They don't think that anymore. Oh, well, if Virginia approves now, that changes everything. She flinched at the sarcasm. That's not what I meant. I know what you meant. And the answer is still no. We're done. You made that call. I'm just following through. You're being stubborn. I'm being consistent. There's a difference. She tried a few more times that week. Called my brother. Asked him to talk to me. He called me laughing. Dude, she actually thought I'd convince you to take her back. I told her you were the smartest guy I know. She reached out to my mom, who was less amused. Mom called me concerned, asking if I was sure I was making the right choice. Marriage is work, honey. Sometimes people say things they don't mean. She meant it, Mom. And even if she didn't, I'm not interested in being with someone who thinks I'm holding them back from being happy. Just don't do anything you'll regret. I won't. The worst attempt came 3 weeks after I'd filed. I was at the gym, finishing up a workout, when she appeared next to my bench. She'd clearly gotten ready for this. Hair done, makeup perfect, wearing one of those outfits she knew I liked. "Hey," she said, smiling like nothing was wrong. I sat up, wiping sweat off my face with a towel. "What are you doing here? I remembered you usually come here on Thursdays. Thought I'd join you. You hate the gym. I'm trying new things. Growing. Isn't that what you wanted?" I stood up and started putting weights away. "I wanted you to be honest. That's different from performing growth to win me back." She followed me to the water fountain. "Why can't you just admit you miss me? I know you do. We were good together. We were comfortable together. That's not the same thing. So what? You're just going to be alone now? Start over at 40, 38. And yes, if that's what it takes. Being alone is better than being with someone who sees me as an obstacle. I never said you were an obstacle. You said I held you back. Same thing." She grabbed my arm, forcing me to stop and look at her. I was wrong. Completely, totally wrong. I got caught up in what everyone else was doing and saying, and I lost sight of what actually mattered. But I see it now. I see you. Please, just give me another chance to prove it. For a moment, I almost believed her. Almost. But then I remembered sitting at that restaurant table, watching her laugh and agree with every criticism her friends made. Remembered the look on her face when she said we were done. That wasn't wine talking. That was truth. "No," I said, gently removing her hand from my arm. "I believe you're sorry. I believe you regret what happened. But being sorry isn't enough. You showed me who you are when you thought you had better options. Now those options fell through, and suddenly I look good again. That's not love. That's convenience." Her eyes filled with tears. "That's not fair. You don't know what I'm feeling." "Maybe not, but I know what I'm feeling. And it's done. Whatever we had, it's over. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be for both of us." I walked back to the locker room, leaving her standing there. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later with another long apology text. I read it, sighed, and put my phone away. That weekend, I met up with Terry for drinks. He'd been checking in regularly since I'd first called him, and tonight felt like a good night to get out of my own head. "So she's still trying?" he asked, ordering us both beers. "Every day? Different tactics, same goal. And you're holding firm?" "Yeah. It's exhausting, but yeah." He nodded approvingly. "Good. That's the test. If you cave now, you're just teaching her she can do it again." "I'm not caving. I meant what I said. We're done. Then stick to it. Trust me, in 6 months you'll be glad you did." I hoped he was right, because some nights, usually around 2 in the morning when the house was too quiet, I wondered if I was making a mistake. If I was being too harsh, too unforgiving. But then I'd remember her voice at that dinner, the certainty in it, the way her friends nodded along like they'd rehearsed this conversation a dozen times before. And I'd know I was doing the right thing. You don't come back from that. Not honestly. Not in a way that would ever feel secure again. So I stayed the course, answered through lawyers, kept my distance, and waited for this whole mess to be officially over. 6 weeks after I filed, I ran into Maddie at the pharmacy. She was picking up a prescription. I was grabbing allergy medication. The kind of mundane overlap that happens in a small city. She saw me first. "Hey, Maddie, how are you holding up?" "Fine. You." She shifted her weight, clearly uncomfortable. "Can I talk to you for a second?" "Outside." We walked out to the parking lot. She leaned against her car, arms crossed. "I wanted to apologize. For that night at the restaurant. And for everything after. Okay. I mean it. We were out of line. All of us. We got caught up in this idea that she deserved something different, something more exciting. But we didn't think about what we were actually encouraging her to do, which was blow up her life." Maddie looked down at her shoes. "The group's kind of falling apart, honestly. Virginia's mad at everyone because we wouldn't help your wife find a place to stay. Bryn feels guilty, and I'm just tired of the whole thing. That's unfortunate. She's not doing well. Your wife. She found an apartment finally, but it's small and expensive. She's struggling to cover rent on her salary alone. And she's miserable. I'm sorry to hear that." Maddie looked at me sharply. "Are you? Because you seem pretty unmoved by all of this. What do you want me to say? That I'll take her back because she's having a hard time? That's not how this works. She made a choice. Choices have consequences. Even if she's genuinely sorry, even if she knows she messed up, even then." I unlocked my car. "Look, I don't wish her any harm. but I'm not responsible for fixing what she broke. She wanted out. She got out. What she does with that is up to her. You're really okay with it ending like this? I have to be, because the alternative is going back to someone who thinks I'm not enough and pretending that'll magically change. It won't. Eventually, she'd decide again that I'm holding her back, and we'd be right back here. Maddie nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think she genuinely gets it now. That she had something good and threw it away. Good. Maybe she'll do better next time. With someone else, you mean? Exactly. I got in my car and drove home. The conversation stuck with me though. Not because it changed anything, but because it confirmed what I'd suspected. She wasn't sorry she'd hurt me. She was sorry she'd miscalculated. That evening, my brother called. You're not going to believe this. Try me. Virginia just sent me a friend request on social media, with a message asking if I wanted to grab drinks sometime. I laughed despite myself. You're kidding. Dead serious. I showed it to Sarah, and she about lost her mind. What is wrong with these people? They're desperate. The whole friend group is imploding, and they're scrambling. Well, I blocked her. Just thought you should know your ex-wife's friends are now apparently trying to date your family. That's disturbing. Night? Anyway, how are you actually doing? Not the polite answer. The honest one. I thought about it. Better than I expected. Some days are harder than others. But mostly I'm just relieved. I didn't realize how exhausting it was, constantly feeling like I wasn't measuring up. You never told me it was that bad. I didn't want to admit it. Felt like failing somehow. Well, for what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. Sarah and I both think so. Thanks. That actually helps. The next week, I got a call from Alice Mosley, my wife's attorney. We need to schedule mediation. Your wife is requesting spousal support. On what grounds? She's arguing that she left her career to support yours, and now she's financially disadvantaged. I almost laughed. She works full-time. Always has. And she makes more than I do. I'll need documentation of that. Pay stubs, tax returns. Can you get those to your lawyer by Friday? Absolutely. The mediation was scheduled for 3 weeks out. I wasn't worried. The numbers didn't lie. We both worked throughout the marriage. The only reason she was struggling financially now was because she'd moved into an apartment she couldn't afford instead of being practical. 2 days before the mediation, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Justin. I'm dating Virginia. She wanted me to reach out to you. Said maybe we could talk man to man. I showed it to Terry over lunch. What do you think this is? A setup. Virginia probably thinks if her boyfriend tells you to take your wife back, you'll listen. Male solidarity or whatever. That's insane. That's Virginia. I didn't respond to Justin's text. Whoever he was, he didn't need to be involved in this mess. The day of mediation arrived. I put on my best suit, met my lawyer outside the office building, and walked in prepared. She was already there, sitting at a conference table with Alice Mosley. She looked nervous. Good. The mediator was a woman in her 60s who'd clearly seen every possible divorce scenario. She got straight to business. Let's start with the house. I understand it's jointly owned. Correct, my lawyer said. We're proposing my client buys out his wife's half at current market value. My wife spoke up. I think I should keep the house. He has better job prospects. He can find somewhere else easier. The mediator looked at me. Your response? I've been paying the mortgage alone since she moved out. She's contributed nothing for the past 2 months. I'm not giving up the house I've been maintaining while she figures out her living situation. Alice Mosley jumped in. My client has been displaced from her home due to the dissolution of the marriage. She's entitled to her share, which I'm offering to buy. Fair market value. She can take that money and put it toward her own place. We went back and forth for an hour. Bank accounts, retirement funds, the cars. Every detail picked apart and negotiated. Through it all, she kept looking at me like she wanted to say something off the record. But we weren't off the record anymore. This was business. Finally, the mediator called for a break. 15 minutes. Get some air, both of you. I walked outside. She followed, naturally. Can we talk? She asked. We just did. For an hour. Not about assets. About us. There is no us. That's why we're here. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. I know you're angry, but this doesn't have to be like this. We could still work it out. Call the whole thing off. I'm not angry, I said, echoing what I'd told her that first night. I'm just done. Those are different things. I don't believe you. You're punishing me. I'm protecting myself from ever feeling this way again. What? Like I'm not enough. Like I'm an inconvenience in someone else's story. I won't do it. Not with you. Not with anyone. She didn't have a response to that. We went back inside and finished the mediation. By the end, the terms were set. House to me, She gets bought out. Cars split. Bank accounts divided. Clean break. Everything settled. Walking out of the building, I felt lighter than I had in months. This was almost over. Just the waiting period now, and then officially done. My phone buzzed. A text from Terry. How'd it go? Better than expected. Almost finished. Drinks tonight to celebrate. Absolutely. For the first time since this whole thing started, I felt like I could actually breathe. 90 days later, I stood outside the courthouse. The divorce was finalized that morning. Simple hearing, judge signed the papers, and it was done. 7 years dissolved in 15 minutes. She was waiting by her car when I came out. I hadn't expected that. Hey, she said quietly. Hey, so that's it. We're officially done. Yeah. She looked different. Thinner, tired. The apartment situation hadn't worked out, and she'd moved twice since mediation. Maddie told me through my brother, who heard it from Sarah, who somehow stayed connected to the whole mess. I wanted to say something, she started. Before we never see each other again. I waited. I was wrong. About everything. You weren't holding me back. I was just scared of being ordinary. Virginia and the others made it seem like everyone else was living these amazing lives, and I felt left behind. But they were all miserable too. I just couldn't see it. I know. You do. I figured it out around week 2, when none of them would help you. She nodded, tears starting. I threw away the best thing I had because I thought there was something better out there. There wasn't. There never was. I'm sorry you had to learn it that way. Do you forgive me? I thought about it honestly. Yeah, I do. But that doesn't change anything. I know. She wiped her eyes. I just needed to hear you say it. Take care of yourself, I said, meaning it. You too. I watched her drive away, then got in my own car. My phone buzzed. Terry asking if I wanted to grab dinner. I said yes. Driving home, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not happiness exactly, not yet. But peace. The kind that comes from knowing you did the right thing, even when it hurt. The house was quiet when I got there. But it was my quiet now. My space. My life to rebuild however I wanted. I poured a drink, sat on the back porch, and looked at the sunset. 7 years gone. But something new beginning. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough.